Martha Henley stood outside the big iron gates and looked up at the massive house beyond them. Her leg hurt badly. She had walked 3 miles to get here, and every step had been painful. Her twisted leg always hurt, but today it felt worse than usual. She was tired, hungry, and scared, but she had no choice. This was her last chance. Martha was 23 years old. She was a big girl, heavier than most women in town. She also had a leg that did not work right. It had been that way since she was born. Walking was hard. Standing for long times was hard. Running was impossible. Because of these things, no one wanted to hire her. She had tried everything. She had asked at the bakery, the general store, the inn, and even the laundry house. Every single place said no. Some people were nice about it. They would look at her with sad eyes and say they were sorry. Others were mean. They would laugh or tell her to go away. One man had said, "We need workers, not people who will slow us down." Martha lived with her mother in a tiny cottage at the edge of the settler lands. Her father had died when she was young. Her mother worked hard, but she was getting old and sick. They barely had enough food. Winter was coming soon, and they had no money to buy wood for heat or extra food. Martha knew that if she did not find work soon, they might not survive. Then she heard the news. Mr. Richard Ashford, the richest and most powerful landowner in the county, needed a new cook. He had fired his last cook 2 weeks ago. Before that, he had fired 4 other cooks in just 5 months. People said he was impossible to please. They said he was mean and cold. They said his house was a terrible place to work. But Martha did not care about any of that. She needed work, and she could cook. Her grandmother had taught her everything she knew. Grandmother had made the most wonderful food. Simple food, yes, but it always tasted like love and home. Martha had learned every recipe, every trick, every secret. She knew she was good at cooking. It was the one thing she could do better than anyone else. So she walked 3 miles to the Thornwood estate. Her leg screamed with pain, but she kept going. When she reached the gates, a man in a uniform stopped her. He was the gatekeeper. He looked at her from head to toe and frowned. "What do you want?" he asked. His voice was not friendly. "I need to speak to Mr. Ashford," Martha said. She tried to sound brave, but her voice shook a little. The gatekeeper laughed. It was a mean laugh. "Mr. Ashford does not talk to people like you. Go away." "Please," Martha said. "I heard he needs a cook. I can cook. I am very good at it." The gatekeeper looked at her again. His eyes stopped at her twisted leg. Then he looked at her body and shook his head. "You? A cook? Girl, you can barely walk. How are you going to work in a kitchen? And look at you. You are too big. You probably eat more than you cook." Martha felt her face get hot. She had heard words like this many times before, but they still hurt. She wanted to cry, but she did not. Instead, she stood up as straight as she could. "I can cook," she said again. Her voice was stronger now. "Please let me talk to Mr. Ashford. Just give me 5 minutes." The gatekeeper was about to say no again when another man walked up. This man wore nice clothes and had keys hanging from his belt. He was the head butler. "What is going on here?" the butler asked. "This girl wants to see the master," the gatekeeper said. "She says she wants to cook." The butler looked at Martha. His face did not show what he was thinking. "The master is very busy," he said, "and he is in a terrible mood. He threw a plate at the wall this morning because his breakfast was bad." "I can make good food," Martha said quickly. "Please. I just need one chance to show him." The butler stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Wait here," he said. He walked toward the house. Martha waited. Her leg hurt so much that she had to lean against the gate. The gatekeeper watched her and shook his head, but he did not say anything more. 15 minutes passed, then 20. Martha began to think the butler was not coming back. Maybe he had forgotten about her. Maybe he had decided she was not worth the trouble. But then the butler returned. Behind him was a tall man with dark hair and cold gray eyes. He wore expensive clothes and walked like someone who owned the world. Martha knew right away that this was Mr. Richard Ashford. He stopped a few feet away from her and crossed his arms. "You want to work in my kitchen?" he asked. His voice was deep and hard. "Yes, sir," Martha said. "Why should I hire you?" he asked. "Look at you. You can barely stand. How will you work in a busy kitchen?" Martha took a deep breath. This was her moment. She could not mess it up. "I am disabled, sir," she said slowly and clearly. "But I can cook." Mr. Ashford raised one eyebrow. He did not look impressed. "Everyone says they can cook," he said. "But every cook I hire makes terrible food. Burned meat, watery soup, bread that tastes like rocks. I am tired of wasting my time and money." "Give me one chance," Martha said. "Let me cook dinner for you tonight. If you like it, I can stay and work. If you do not like it, I will leave and never come back. You will lose nothing by letting me try." Mr. Ashford stared at her. His gray eyes were like ice. Martha felt small under his gaze, but she did not look away. She met his eyes and waited. Finally, after what felt like forever, Mr. Ashford spoke. "Fine," he said. "You have until 7 o'clock tonight. Cook me dinner. If it is good, you can have the job. If it is bad, you will leave immediately. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Martha said. Relief flooded through her body. "Thank you, sir." "Do not thank me yet," Mr. Ashford said coldly. "You have not earned anything." He turned and walked back toward the house without another word. The butler motioned for Martha to follow him. "Come with me," he said. "I will show you the kitchen. You have 4 hours to prepare dinner for the master. He eats at exactly 7 o'clock. Do not be late." Martha followed the butler through the gates and up the long driveway. The house was bigger than anything she had ever seen. It had 3 floors and dozens of windows. Beautiful gardens surrounded it. Everything looked perfect and expensive. But Martha did not have time to admire it. She had work to do. She had to cook the best meal of her life. Everything depended on it. Her future, her mother's future, their survival. It all came down to this one dinner. As she walked toward the kitchen door, Martha said a silent prayer. "Please," she whispered, "please let me do this right." She did not know it yet, but this night would change everything. Not just for her, but for Mr. Ashford too. Sometimes one meal can change the world. The butler led Martha through a side door and down a hallway. Finally, they reached the kitchen. When the door opened, Martha stopped and stared. The kitchen was huge. It was bigger than her entire cottage. There were 2 large stoves, a massive wooden table in the center, shelves filled with pots and pans, and windows that let in lots of light. But the kitchen was also a disaster. Dirty dishes were piled in the sink. Food scraps covered the counter. The floor was sticky. The air smelled sour like something had gone bad. This was not a kitchen where good food was made. This was a kitchen that had been forgotten. A young woman stood near the stove. She had red hair pulled back in a messy bun and wore a stained apron. She looked at Martha with cold eyes. "This is Bridget," the butler said. "She is the scullery maid. She has been managing the kitchen since the last cook left. Bridget, this is Martha. She will be cooking dinner for the master tonight." Bridget looked Martha up and down. Her lip curled in disgust. "Her," she said. "She is going to cook? She can barely walk." "That is not your concern," the butler said sharply. "Help her find what she needs. The master expects dinner at 7 o'clock exactly." He turned to Martha. "You have 4 hours. Good luck." Then he left. As soon as the door closed, Bridget's fake politeness disappeared. She crossed her arms and glared at Martha. "I do not know why Mr. Ashford keeps bringing in people like you," she said. "You will fail just like all the others. Then I will still be here doing all the work." Martha ignored the rudeness. She had heard worse. "Can you show me where the ingredients are?" she asked calmly. Bridget pointed to a pantry door. "In there. Help yourself." She turned away and started scrubbing a pot, making it clear she would not help anymore. Martha walked to the pantry. Her leg was still hurting, but she tried not to limp. She did not want to show weakness. She opened the pantry door and looked inside. Her heart sank. The pantry was nearly empty. There were a few wilted vegetables, some old potatoes, half a loaf of stale bread, and a chicken that looked like it had been sitting there for days. There was almost no fresh food, no good herbs, no quality meat. This was not a pantry for making fine meals. Martha understood what was happening. Bridget had hidden the good ingredients or given her the worst ones on purpose. This was a test, but not the test Mr. Ashford had intended. This was Bridget's test. She wanted Martha to fail. For a moment, Martha felt afraid. How could she make a good meal with these terrible ingredients? But then she remembered her grandmother's words. A good cook can make something beautiful from almost nothing. It is not about what you have. It is about what you do with it. Martha took a deep breath and started working. She picked through the vegetables and found the best ones. The potatoes were old, but they were still good inside. The bread was stale, but she could use it. The chicken looked bad on the outside, but when she checked it carefully, the meat was still fresh enough to cook safely. She looked around the kitchen for anything else she could use. Near the back door, she found a small herb garden that had been neglected. Rosemary, thyme, and sage grew wild among the weeds. Martha picked the freshest herbs. They smelled wonderful. Then she got to work. She cleaned a section of the counter and laid out her ingredients. Her leg was throbbing, so she pulled a stool over to lean against. Bridget watched her from the corner and smirked. She thought Martha was weak, but Martha was not weak. She was determined. She began by cleaning the chicken carefully. She removed the bad parts and kept the good meat. Then she rubbed it with salt, pepper, and the fresh herbs. She placed it in the oven to roast slowly. While the chicken cooked, Martha worked on the vegetables. She peeled the potatoes and cut away the bad spots. She diced them into small pieces and mixed them with butter she found in the cold box. She added some of the herbs and a little bit of cream that was still good. This would be her potato side dish. The wilted vegetables were harder to save. But Martha had an idea. She chopped them finely and mixed them together. She added water and some chicken bones she found to make a stock. Slowly, she cooked them down into a rich soup. She added pepper and salt to taste. The smell began to fill the kitchen. For the stale bread, Martha cut it into cubes. She soaked it in milk and eggs, added a little sugar and cinnamon, and baked it. This would become a bread pudding for dessert. As she worked, Martha forgot about the pain in her leg. She forgot about Bridget's mean stares. She forgot about being scared. All she thought about was the food. She tasted everything. She adjusted the seasonings. She made sure everything was perfect. The kitchen started to smell amazing. The roasted chicken filled the air with the scent of herbs. The soup bubbled gently on the stove. Even Bridget stopped scrubbing and sniffed the air. She looked surprised. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" Bridget asked. Her voice was not as mean as before. "My grandmother taught me," Martha said simply. She did not look up from her work. The butler returned at exactly 10 minutes before 7. "Is the meal ready?" he asked. "Yes," Martha said. "Everything is ready." "Bring it to the dining room," the butler said. "The master is waiting." Martha carefully placed the food on serving dishes. Her hands shook a little as she carried the plates. This was it. This was the moment that would decide everything. The dining room was dark and formal. A long table sat in the center with only one place set at the head. Mr. Ashford sat there reading a newspaper. He did not look up when Martha entered. The butler helped her place the dishes on the table. Roasted chicken with herbs, creamy potatoes, rich vegetable soup, fresh bread that she had managed to make from what little flour was left, and the bread pudding for dessert. Mr. Ashford finally looked up. He stared at the food without expression. "This is what you made?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Martha said quietly. He did not say anything else. He just picked up his fork and knife and began to eat. Martha stood near the wall and watched. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. The butler stood beside her, his face neutral. Mr. Ashford cut a piece of chicken and put it in his mouth. He chewed slowly. His face did not change. Martha could not tell what he was thinking. He tried the potatoes, then the soup. He ate without speaking for what felt like forever. Finally, Mr. Ashford put down his fork. He looked at Martha. "Where did you get these ingredients?" he asked. Martha felt her stomach drop. Was he angry? "From the pantry, sir," she said. "And I found some herbs growing outside by the kitchen door." Mr. Ashford was quiet for a moment. Then he said something Martha did not expect. "This is the best meal I have had in 5 years. Martha could not believe her ears. "Sir?" she whispered. "This chicken," Mr. Ashford said, "reminds me of what my wife used to make, before she died." His voice was softer now, almost sad. "She died 5 years ago. Since then I have not tasted anything that felt like home. But this—" He looked at the food on his plate. "This feels like home." Martha felt tears come to her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Thank you, sir," she said. Mr. Ashford looked at her directly. "You start tomorrow," he said. "Be here at 6 in the morning. You will cook all my meals. Your pay will be fair. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Martha said. "Thank you, sir." "Thank you so much," Mr. Ashford nodded once. Then he went back to eating his meal. The butler motioned for Martha to leave. She walked out of the dining room feeling like she was floating. When she returned to the kitchen, Bridget was waiting. The scullery maid's face was red with anger. "So you got the job," she said bitterly. "Fine, but do not think this means anything. You might have fooled Mr. Ashford tonight, but you will not last. This kitchen is my territory. I have been here for 3 years. You are nothing but a crippled girl who got lucky." Martha looked at Bridget calmly. "I did not get lucky," she said. "I worked hard. And I will keep working hard. I hope we can work together." Bridget snorted. "We will see how long you last," she said. Then she turned and walked away. Martha did not care about Bridget's anger. She had done it. She had gotten the job. Tomorrow she would tell her mother the good news. They would have money for food and wood for winter. They would survive. As Martha walked home in the dark, her leg hurt terribly, but she smiled anyway. For the first time in a long time, she felt hope. Martha started her new job the next morning. She arrived at the kitchen at 6 o'clock, just as the sun was rising. Her mother had cried with joy when Martha told her about getting the job. They had hugged for a long time. For the first time in months, her mother had smiled a real smile. But the happiness Martha felt at home disappeared when she entered the kitchen. Bridget was already there, and she was not alone. 3 other servants stood with her, 2 maids and a stable boy who sometimes helped in the kitchen. They all stared at Martha with unfriendly eyes. "So you actually came back," Bridget said. She did not sound happy about it. "Of course," Martha said. "I work here now." "We will see how long that lasts," one of the maids whispered to the other. They both laughed. Martha ignored them and got to work. She needed to prepare breakfast for Mr. Ashford. He liked to eat at 8 o'clock sharp. She began making eggs, toast, and bacon. Simple food, but made with care. As she worked, Martha noticed that things kept disappearing. She would put down a knife, and when she reached for it again, it was gone. She needed butter, but the butter dish was empty even though she had seen it full just minutes ago. Her wooden spoon vanished. Then her whisk, Martha realized what was happening. Bridget and the others were hiding her tools. They were trying to make her fail. But Martha did not complain. She just found other tools and kept cooking. When she could not find what she needed, she made do with something else. Breakfast was ready on time. The butler came to collect it and took it to Mr. Ashford. Martha waited nervously. 20 minutes later, the butler returned with empty plates. "The master enjoyed his breakfast," the butler said. "He wants you to continue." Martha felt relief wash over her. She had passed the first test, but she knew there would be more tests to come. Over the next few weeks, life in the kitchen became a war. Bridget did everything she could to make Martha fail. She would turn up the oven when Martha was not looking, burning the food. She would add too much salt to dishes when Martha stepped away. She would bump into Martha on purpose, making her spill things. The other servants joined in. They mocked Martha behind her back, calling her names. "The fat cripple," they whispered. "She will not last a month." Martha's body hurt all the time. Standing for long hours made her leg throb with pain. By the end of each day, she could barely walk home. Her back ached. Her feet were swollen. But she never complained. She never showed weakness. She just kept cooking, and her cooking was making a difference. Mr. Ashford began to change. Before Martha arrived, he was always angry. He yelled at servants. He slammed doors. He ate his meals quickly and alone, barely tasting the food. But now things were different. Mr. Ashford started to spend more time at meals. He would sit at the dining table and eat slowly, actually enjoying his food. Sometimes he would even ask the butler to compliment Martha on a particular dish. The dark cloud that seemed to hang over the house began to lift just a little. One evening, Mr. Ashford did something he had never done before. He came to the kitchen. All the servants froze when he walked in. Masters never came to the kitchen. That was not proper. Martha, Mr. Ashford said. His voice was not as cold as usual. What are you making for dinner tonight? Martha was so surprised she almost dropped her spoon. Beef stew, sir, she said, with carrots and potatoes. And apple pie for dessert. My wife used to make apple pie, Mr. Ashford said quietly. He looked at the pie cooling on the counter. It smells just like hers. I hope it tastes good, sir, Martha said. Mr. Ashford nodded. Then he did something even more surprising. He smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, but it was real. I am sure it will, he said. Then he left. After he was gone, Bridget threw a towel on the floor in anger. This is disgusting, she hissed. The master never talked to any of the other cooks. He never smiled at them. What makes you so special? I just cook good food, Martha said simply. That is all. You think you are better than us, Bridget said. Her face was red. You think because the master likes your food you can act like you own this kitchen. But you are just a stupid, fat, crippled girl. You do not belong here. Martha felt the words hit her like stones. They hurt, but she had heard worse before. She looked at Bridget calmly. I do not think I am better than anyone, she said. I am just doing my job. I wish you would let me do it in peace. But Bridget was not done. She wanted Martha gone, so she made a plan. One day when Martha was preparing lunch, Bridget snuck into the pantry and took out the good meat that was meant for Mr. Ashford's dinner. She hid it in the cellar and replaced it with old spoiled meat. She thought that if Martha served bad food to Mr. Ashford, he would fire her immediately. That evening, when Martha went to get the meat for dinner, she found the spoiled piece. She knew right away that something was wrong. The meat smelled bad. It had a green color on the edges. This meat would make someone very sick. Martha looked around the kitchen. Bridget was watching her with a smile. Martha understood what had happened. Bridget had switched the meat. But Martha would not let Bridget win. She would not serve bad food to Mr. Ashford, even if it meant getting in trouble. Martha went to the butler. Sir, she said, the meat for tonight's dinner has gone bad. I cannot cook it. I need to make something else. The butler frowned. Bad meat? That is impossible. We just bought that meat yesterday. Please come and see, Martha said. The butler followed her to the pantry. When he smelled the meat, his face turned angry. Who did this? He demanded. He looked at Bridget. Did you take the good meat and replace it with this? Bridget's face turned white. I do not know what you are talking about, she stammered. Do not lie, the butler said. You are the only one who has access to the pantry besides Martha. This is sabotage. Mr. Ashford will hear about this. Bridget started to cry. Please, she begged. You wanted Martha to fail, the butler said coldly. You put the master's health at risk because of your jealousy. Pack your things. You are dismissed. Bridget looked at Martha with pure hatred. This is your fault, she spat. You ruined everything. Then she ran out of the kitchen. Martha felt bad, but she also felt relieved. The kitchen would be easier without Bridget's constant sabotage. The butler arranged for a new scullery maid to start the next day. Martha quickly made a chicken dish for dinner instead of the beef. Mr. Ashford never knew what had almost happened. After Bridget was gone, the other servants began to treat Martha differently. They saw that she had not tattled on Bridget. The butler had discovered the truth on his own. They also saw that Martha worked harder than anyone else. She came early. She stayed late. She never complained. Slowly, very slowly, they began to respect her. One of the maids, a young woman named Clara, started to help Martha without being asked. Let me carry that pot for you, she would say. Or sit down for a minute. Your leg must hurt. Clara was kind and Martha was grateful. But even with Bridget gone and some servants being nicer, Martha still faced a big problem, one that would test everything she had worked for. One day, Martha overheard Mr. Ashford talking to some men in his study. The door was slightly open. Martha was walking past with a tray of tea when she heard the words that made her blood run cold. We will sell the settler lands by the end of the month, Mr. Ashford said. The developers are offering good money. Those people have been squatting on my property for too long. It is time they moved on. Martha's heart stopped. The settler lands. That was where she and her mother lived. That was where dozens of families had built their homes. If Mr. Ashford sold the land to developers, everyone would be kicked out. They would have nowhere to go. Her mother would lose everything. Martha stood frozen in the hallway. Her hands shook so badly that the teacups rattled on the tray. What could she do? If she said something, Mr. Ashford might fire her. But if she stayed quiet, her mother and all her neighbors would lose their homes. That night, Martha could not sleep. She lay in bed and thought about what to do. She had worked so hard to get this job. She had endured pain, mockery, and sabotage. She had finally found a place where she could support her mother. But how could she stay silent when so many people would suffer? By morning, Martha had made her decision. She could not stay quiet. She would have to speak to Mr. Ashford. She would tell him the truth about the settler lands. She would beg him not to sell. And if he fired her for speaking up, then at least she would know she had tried. Martha did not know it yet, but this decision would change everything. Martha spent the whole day working up her courage. Every time she thought about speaking to Mr. Ashford, her stomach twisted with fear. She could lose everything. Her job, her income, the roof over her and her mother's heads. But she also knew she could not stay silent. Too many people would suffer if she did nothing. That evening, Martha prepared Mr. Ashford's favorite meal. She made roasted duck with orange sauce, mashed potatoes with butter and cream, green beans with almonds, and a chocolate cake for dessert. She cooked with extra care, putting all her love and skill into every dish. She did not know if this would be the last meal she ever made for him. When the meal was ready, Martha asked the butler if she could speak to Mr. Ashford after dinner. The butler looked surprised. Cooks did not usually request meetings with the master. But he agreed to ask. 10 minutes later, the butler returned. "The master will see you in his study after he finishes eating," he said. "Do not make him wait," Martha nodded. Her mouth was dry. Her hands were shaking. She took off her apron and washed her face. Then she waited. Finally, the butler came to get her. "The master is ready," he said. He led her down a long hallway to a large wooden door. He knocked once and opened it. "Martha, sir," he announced. Then he left, closing the door behind her. Mr. Ashford sat behind a big desk covered with papers. The room was dark except for a lamp on the desk and a fire in the fireplace. He looked up at her with those cold gray eyes. "You wanted to speak with me?" he asked. He did not invite her to sit down. Martha stood near the door. Her leg was hurting from standing all day, but she tried not to show it. "Yes, sir," she said. I need to talk to you about something important." Mr. Ashford leaned back in his chair. "Go on," he said. Martha took a deep breath. "I heard you talking yesterday, sir, about selling the settler lands. The land where my mother and I live, where many families have built their homes." Mr. Ashford's face became hard. "You were listening to my private conversation?" His voice was sharp. "No, sir, I was not trying to listen," Martha said quickly. "I was walking past with tea and I heard through the open door. I did not mean to spy, but I heard what you said and She stopped. Her courage was leaving her. "Go on," Mr. Ashford said. His voice was cold now. Martha forced herself to continue. "Those families, sir, they have lived on that land for years. They built their homes there. They grow their food there. If you sell the land, they will have nowhere to go. My mother is old and sick. She cannot start over somewhere new. Please, sir, please do not sell the land." Mr. Ashford stood up. His face was red with anger. "How dare you," he said. His voice was loud now. "How dare you come into my study and tell me what to do with my property? Those people are squatters. They do not own that land, I do. I have every right to sell it." "I know, sir," Martha said. Her voice was shaking, but she kept talking. "I know it is your land. I know you have the right to sell it. But those people are good people. They work hard. They do not have much. If you take away their homes, they will have nothing. I am begging you, sir. Please find another way." Mr. Ashford walked around his desk and stood in front of Martha. He was very tall. Martha had to look up to see his face. "I have been kind to you," he said. "I gave you a job when no one else would. I paid you fairly. I treated you with respect. And this is how you repay me? By coming here and questioning my business decisions? By trying to use my kindness against me?" Martha felt tears come to her eyes. "No, sir," she said. "I am not trying to use your kindness. I am grateful for this job, more grateful than you know, but I cannot stay silent when I know good people will suffer. I cannot work for someone who would destroy my community." The room went very quiet. Mr. Ashford stared at her. "What did you say?" he asked. His voice was dangerous. Martha's whole body was shaking now, but she stood her ground. I said I cannot work for someone who would destroy my community, sir. If you sell that land, I will have to leave this job. I cannot stay here knowing what I know. I would rather lose everything than stay quiet. For a long moment, Mr. Ashford said nothing. Then he spoke, and his voice was like ice. You are fired, he said. Pack your things and get out of my house. I will not be threatened or manipulated by someone like you. I thought you were different from the others, but you are not. You used my trust to get close to me, just so you could try to control my business decisions. You are a schemer and a liar. Martha felt like she had been punched in the stomach. I am not a schemer, sir, she said. Tears were running down her face now. I am not a liar. I cooked good food for you because I am a good cook. That is all. I am speaking up now because it is the right thing to do. I wish you could see that. Get out, Mr. Ashford said. Get out of my house now. Martha turned and walked out of the study. Her leg was shaking so badly she almost fell. She walked back to the kitchen in a daze. Clara was there cleaning up from dinner. Martha, what happened? Clara asked. She saw Martha's tears. What did he do to you? I am fired, Martha said. Her voice sounded far away. I need to pack my things. No, Clara said. Why? You are the best cook he has ever had. Why would he fire you? Martha could not explain. She just shook her head and went to the small room next to the kitchen, where she kept her spare apron and a few personal items. There was not much to pack. She had only been working here for a few weeks. She put everything into a small bag. As she was leaving, she saw that the chocolate cake was still sitting on the counter. Mr. Ashford had not eaten any of it. She had made it with so much care, but he had been too angry to even try it. It felt like a symbol of everything that had just happened. All her hard work, all her hope destroyed in one conversation. Martha left through the kitchen door. She did not say goodbye to anyone. She could not speak. She just walked down the path toward the gates. The gatekeeper saw her crying and looked away. He did not ask any questions. The walk home felt endless. Martha's leg hurt terribly. She had to stop several times to rest. By the time she reached her cottage, it was dark and she was exhausted. Her mother was waiting by the door, worried. Martha, what is wrong? Her mother asked. Why are you home so late? And why are you crying? Martha told her mother everything. About overhearing the conversation, about speaking to Mr. Ashford, about getting fired. Her mother held her while she cried. You did the right thing, her mother said softly. I am proud of you. You stood up for what is right even when it cost you everything. That takes real courage. But what will we do now? Martha asked. We have no money. You will lose the house. Where will we go? I do not know, her mother said honestly. But we will figure it out. We always do. We have each other. That is what matters most, but Martha knew it was not enough. Love could not fill empty stomachs or keep them warm in winter. She had tried so hard to save them, and she had failed. She cried herself to sleep that night. Meanwhile, back at Thornwood Estate, Mr. Ashford could not eat. He sat in his dining room and stared at the chocolate cake that Martha had made. He cut a small piece and tasted it. It was perfect. Sweet and rich and made with care. Just like everything else she had cooked for him. He thought about what she had said. About how she could not stay silent when good people would suffer. About how she would rather lose everything than watch her community be destroyed. She had not threatened him. She had not tried to blackmail him. She had simply told him the truth and accepted the consequences. Mr. Ashford pushed the cake away. He was not hungry anymore. He went to his study and looked at the papers for the land sale. The developers were offering a lot of money. It was good business, smart business. But for the first time in years, Mr. Ashford felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt ashamed. He thought about his wife. Before she died, she had always encouraged him to be kind. Money is not everything, she used to say. How you treat people matters more than how much you own. After she died, he had pushed those thoughts away. He had become hard and cold. He had focused only on business and profit. He had forgotten how to be human, Martha had reminded him. With her cooking, she had brought warmth back into his life. She had made him remember what it felt like to enjoy a meal, to feel at home. And when she spoke to him tonight, she had shown him something he had not seen in a long time. Real courage. Real principle. She had not been trying to manipulate him. She had been trying to do what was right, even though it cost her everything. Mr. Ashford sat in his study all night thinking. He did not sleep at all. He kept seeing Martha's face, tear-stained but determined. "I cannot work for someone who would destroy my community," she had said. Those words echoed in his mind. By the time the sun rose, Mr. Ashford had made a decision. He stood up from his desk and called for his horse. He had somewhere important to go. Martha woke up early the next morning. She had barely slept. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Her mother was already awake, sitting at their small kitchen table. They had no food for breakfast. Martha had been bringing home leftover food from the estate, but now that was gone. "I will go to town today," Martha said. "I will try to find work. Maybe at the mill or the laundry." Her mother nodded, but they both knew the truth. No one would hire Martha. They had rejected her before, and they would reject her again. But Martha had to try. She could not just give up. There was a knock at the door. Both Martha and her mother jumped. It was very early. Who would be visiting at this hour? Martha's mother went to the door and opened it. She gasped. Standing outside was Mr. Richard Ashford. He was on his horse, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. He looked tired. His eyes were red like he had not slept at all. "Is Martha here?" he asked. His voice was quiet, not angry like it had been last night. Martha came to the door. When she saw Mr. Ashford, she did not know what to say. Was he here to yell at her more? To make sure she never came back? Mr. Ashford climbed down from his horse. He stood in front of their small cottage and looked around. The house was tiny and old. The roof had holes in it. The garden was small. Everything about this place showed that Martha and her mother lived in poverty. But it was clean and well kept. There were flowers growing by the door. Someone had tried to make it a home. "May I speak with you?" Mr. Ashford asked Martha. Martha nodded. She was too shocked to speak. They walked a little away from the house so her mother could not hear. Mr. Ashford was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I did not sleep last night. I sat in my study and thought about what you said. About what I was doing, and I realized something. I realized that you were right and I was wrong." Martha stared at him. She could not believe what she was hearing. "For 5 years since my wife died, I have been angry at the world," Mr. Ashford continued. "I shut myself away. I stopped caring about people. I only cared about money and business. I forgot what it meant to be human. But you reminded me. With your cooking, you brought warmth back into my life. And with your courage last night, you showed me what real integrity looks like." He took a deep breath. "I am not going to sell the settler lands," he said. "Instead, I am going to create a new agreement. The families who live there can buy their plots of land over time, at fair prices. They can make small payments each month. Eventually, they will own the land they live on. No one will be forced to leave." Martha felt tears come to her eyes again, but this time they were tears of relief and joy. "Sir," she whispered. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I am not finished," Mr. Ashford said. He looked directly at her. "I also came here to apologize. I should not have yelled at you. I should not have fired you. You did nothing wrong. You spoke the truth with courage, and I punished you for it. That was wrong of me. I'm sorry." Martha could hardly breathe. Mr. Richard Ashford, the richest and most powerful man in the county, was apologizing to her. "A disabled girl from the settler lands, I want you to come back," Mr. Ashford said. "Not just as my cook. I want to offer you a proper position. You would be the head of hospitality at Thornwood Estate. You would manage the kitchen, plan the meals, and train other cooks. You would have a good salary, much better than what I was paying you before. And you and your mother could live in a cottage on the estate grounds. A better cottage with a real roof and a warm fireplace." Martha could not speak. Her throat was tight with emotion. Was this really happening? After everything, was he really offering her not just her job back, but something even better? "I know I do not deserve your forgiveness," Mr. Ashford said. "I was cruel to you, but I am asking for a second chance. Will you come back and work for me?" Martha wiped her tears. "Yes," she said. Her voice was shaky but clear. "Yes, I will come back. Thank you, sir." "Thank you for everything." Mr. Ashford smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Now let us go tell your mother the good news. I imagine she has been worrying." They walked back to the cottage. Martha's mother was standing in the doorway, watching them nervously. When Martha told her the news, her mother cried. Mr. Ashford helped them pack their few belongings that very day. He arranged for a wagon to bring them to the estate. Their new cottage was ready by evening. The cottage was beautiful. It had 2 bedrooms, a real kitchen, and a fireplace that actually worked. There were new blankets on the beds and fresh flowers on the table. Martha's mother could not stop crying with joy. Over the next few weeks, Martha settled into her new role. She hired new kitchen staff, but she was careful about who she chose. She hired people who had been rejected by others just like she had been. She hired an older man who had lost an arm in an accident. She hired a young woman who stuttered so badly most people could not understand her. She hired a boy who was very thin and weak but had a good heart. She taught them all how to cook. She was patient with them. She never yelled or mocked them. She treated them with respect and kindness. Slowly, they became like a family. The kitchen, which had been a cold and miserable place, became warm and full of laughter. Mr. Ashford kept his promise about the settler lands. He met with all the families and explained the new agreement. People could barely believe it. Many cried with relief. They would not lose their homes. They could actually own the land they lived on. It would take years of payments, but they could do it. They had hope now. Word of what Mr. Ashford had done spread throughout the county. People started to see him differently. He was no longer known as the cruel landowner who cared only about money. He became known as a fair man, someone who listened and cared about his community. Mr. Ashford himself was changing too. He smiled more. He spoke to his servants with kindness. He even started hosting dinners at the estate, inviting people from town. Martha would cook these dinners and people would praise her food. "This is the best meal I have ever had," they would say. Martha would smile and thank them, but she knew the truth. The food was good because it was made with love. One evening, about a year after Martha had first arrived at Thornwood Estate, Mr. Ashford came to the kitchen. He did this sometimes now, just to talk. He would ask Martha about her day or tell her about something that had happened. "I've been thinking," Mr. Ashford said that evening. "When I hired you, I was only thinking about getting a good cook. But you gave me so much more than that. You gave me back my life. You reminded me how to be human. You showed me that people matter more than money. I do not know how to thank you for that." Martha smiled. "You already have thanked me, sir," she said. "You gave me and my mother a home. You gave me a job where I am respected. You saved my community. That is more than enough." "You deserved all of it," Mr. Ashford said. "You have an incredible gift, Martha. Not just your cooking, but your spirit. You faced cruelty and rejection your whole life, but you never let it make you cruel. You stayed kind and strong. That is rare. That is special." Martha felt her eyes get wet. "My grandmother used to tell me something," she said. "She said that the most important ingredient in any recipe is not in the pantry. It is in your heart. She said that if you cook with love, people will taste it." I think she was right. "She was definitely right," Mr. Ashford said. "I tasted it from the very first meal you made for me." As the months and years went by, Martha's reputation grew. People came from other counties just to taste her food. Some tried to hire her away from Thornwood Estate, offering more money. But Martha always said no. This was her home now. These were her people. Her mother lived comfortably in their cottage, her health improving with good food and a warm house. She would sit by the fire in the evenings and smile, watching Martha come home from work. "I am so proud of you," she would say. "You did what I always knew you could do. You showed the world what you are capable of." The kitchen staff that Martha trained became skilled cooks themselves. Many went on to work in other great houses, but they always remembered what Martha taught them. Not just how to cook, but how to treat people with dignity, how to never give up even when things are hard, how to make something beautiful out of almost nothing. Mr. Ashford never forgot the lesson Martha taught him. He continued to treat people fairly. He became involved in the community, helping those who needed it. When other landowners criticized him for being too soft, he did not care. He had learned that there were things more important than profit. There were things like compassion, kindness, and doing what was right. And Martha, the girl who had once stood at the gates with nothing but hope and determination, became known throughout the county as the woman who had changed everything, not through force or power, but through simple, honest work, through courage and integrity, through food made with love. She had once said, "I am disabled, sir, but I can cook." Those words had been true, but they were only part of the truth. The full truth was this: Martha was so much more than her disability. She was a talented cook, yes, but she was also brave, kind, principled, and strong. She was everything that mattered, and in the end, she did not just change her own life or Mr. Ashford's life. She changed an entire community. She showed people that everyone deserves a chance,